want you to picture something with me. We are stepping out of a time machine into London.
Yeah.
It's Sunday morning, July 30, 1871. It's the peak of the Victorian era.
Right.
The air is probably thick with coal smoke, streets are crowded with carriages, and we're squeezing our way into the Metropolitan Tabernacle.
Which, just to set the scale, was massive. I mean, we are talking about a congregation of 5,000 or 6,000 people, packed shoulder to shoulder.
And standing at the front is Charles Spurgeon, the Prince of Preachers. Now, usually when we look at historical speeches or, sermons, we focus on the famous lines or the big theological concepts.
Sure.
But today we're doing something a little different. We have a stack of notes here on a sermon he delivered that specific morning. And honestly, the psychological game he plays with the audience is just intense.
It really is. It's less of a sermon and more of a surgical dismantling of the human ego.
The text he chose was Philippians 2.12. The verse says, "Work out your own salvation with fear and trembling." But Spurgeon does something right out of the gate that I found really interesting. He basically takes a pair of scissors to the Bible verse.
He does. He just ignores the context. He ignores the surrounding theology. Just for a moment, he tells the crowd, I am going to focus on just 3 words.
Your own salvation.
Right, that's it. And his whole goal was to force thousands of people sitting in a crowded, hot room into what he called mental solitude.
See, when I first read that phrase, mental solitude, I thought of mindfulness. Finding a quiet place, maybe a little meditation app.
Yeah, something peaceful.
It sounds peaceful.
Well, this is the opposite of peaceful. Spurgeon's version of mental solitude is, well, it's terrifying. He wants to strip away the crowd. He wants you to forget the person sitting next to you, forget your family, forget your social status. He wants to isolate you so that you are staring into a mirror with nowhere to hide.
He's basically saying, stop looking at your neighbor's paper. This is a pop quiz, and you are the only one taking it.
Exactly. He's removing the comfort of the herd. We love to hide in groups, especially when it comes to these big existential questions.
Right. If everyone else is doing okay, I must be okay.
Spurgeon says, no, step out of the crowd. Let's talk about you.
So let's get into the meat of this. The topic is salvation. And I think for a lot of people, even people who aren't super religious, that word has a specific, maybe slightly cartoonish vibe.
Yeah.
You get a ticket, you go to heaven, you avoid the bad place. Simple.
The fire insurance view of religion. You pay your premium and you're covered in case of emergency.
Right. But Spurgeon doesn't let them get away with that. He defines salvation in a way that is surprisingly nuanced.
Yeah,
He actually breaks it down into 4 distinct parts. And this is where I think the modern ear needs to perk up, because he talks about things that sound a lot like, psychology and habit formation.
He definitely broadens the scope.
Yeah.
So the first part he mentions is the one most people expect. Deliverance from guilt.
The legal side.
This is the legal side of things. The acquittal. Right. He talks about past crimes, transgressions being blotted out. It's the idea of having your criminal record expunged. You're no longer liable for what you did yesterday.
Okay, that's the standard definition. But then he pivots to the second part, and this is where he lost me for a second, so help me unpack it. He talks about deliverance from the power of sin.
This is the crucial point, and honestly, it's where Spurgeon is most aggressive. He argues that salvation isn't just about forgiveness, it's about mastery. He says if you claim to be saved, but you are still a slave to your bad habits, your unclean desires, or your temper, you are deluding yourself.
That's a pretty high bar, isn't it? I mean, nobody is perfect. Is he saying if you have a bad habit, you're out?
He's saying there has to be a shift in the power dynamics. He asks, hast thou escaped the corruption? It's not that you never mess up, but that the vice no longer owns you. He calls it the death of sin.
So you're not just suppressing it.
You're actively killing it.
So it's the difference between a prisoner who is behaving because the guard is watching and a free man who has actually changed his nature.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Spurgeon is saying that if you haven't been saved from the power of your own dark side, then the rest of the salvation package, well, it doesn't apply to you. You have to be the master of your own house.
Okay, so we have guilt and the power of sin. What are the other 2?
Number 3 is deliverance from present wrath.
Is that different from future punishment?
Very different. This is about your current state of mind. Spurgeon paints this picture of a man living with an arrow pointed at his heart every single moment.
Wow.
It's the psychological weight of being at war with the universe or with God. He says salvation means removing that present threat. It's about peace now, not just safety later.
And the fourth one is the classic future wrath.
Yes, the pit of hell.
What?
He doesn't shy away from the fire and brimstone at all. He has this chilling line, where death leaves us, judgment finds us.
Oof.
Meaning there's no changing your mind once you cross that threshold.
It's heavy stuff. But you have to remember, he's trying to sell this concept to a room full of people who have, bills to pay, businesses to run, social lives to maintain.
Right.
So how does he convince them that this salvation is actually worth more than, say, a promotion or a new house?
He does a valuation analysis.
Oh.
He compares the soul to everything Victorian Londoners, and let's be honest, us today, obsess over.
Heck.
Take health, for instance.
Which is huge, especially in 1871. I mean, health was a fragile thing.
Absolutely. And Spurgeon is pro-health. He says, go to the doctor, exercise, follow the sanitary laws. But then he asks, what is the point of a healthy body if it houses a perishing soul? It's like having a pristine frame for a painting that's just rotting away.
And then he goes for the wallet. He talks about wealth.
Yeah.
And he uses an image here that I just can't get out of my head. The golden coffin.
It's vivid, isn't it? He says, a golden coffin will be a poor compensation for a damned soul.
It's so dismissive, just completely cuts through the materialism.
It does. You could be the richest man in London. You can affect the policies of nations with your checkbook. But in the economy of eternity, that currency is worthless. He's telling them they are saving up money that they can't spend where they're going.
He also takes a shot at reputation. He calls fame a bauble.
This cheap toy.
Yeah.
He says even if every trumpet in the world plays your theme song, it doesn't matter if the final judge tells you to depart.
So to really drive this home, though, he does something rhetorical that I thought was brilliant. He calls witnesses,
Yes.
but not just any witnesses. He basically calls the entire cosmos to the stand to testify that your soul is important.
It's a hierarchy of authority. He starts at the very, very top, God the Father and the Son. He
Right.
points to the bloody sweat of Gethsemane. His logic is simple economic theory. Value is determined by what someone is willing to pay.
And if the Creator paid for this with the death of his son,
How arrogant are you to treat it as trivial?
he mentions the angels, too.
Who rejoice over one repenting sinner. He says they are watching the drama of your life unfold with bated breath.
But then he flips it. And this is where it gets dark. He says, even the devils think your salvation is important.
That's the twist.
Yeah.
He argues that the enemies of the soul, the demons, the powers of darkness, they are working overtime to destroy you. They are tireless. And his point is, if the bad guys are working this hard to stop you from getting something, it must be incredibly valuable. Thieves don't break into empty houses.
That is a fascinating perspective. The fact that you are being targeted proves your worth.
Exactly. And finally, he cites the lost souls. He references the parable of the rich man in hell who begs to send a warning back to his brothers.
Right.
He says, if the dead could speak, they wouldn't talk about the stock market or the weather. They would scream at you to prioritize this one thing.
So everyone agrees. God, angels, demons, the dead. The only people who don't get it are the ones sitting in the pews half asleep.
Right. Which brings us back to the core thesis, your own salvation, the mental solitude.
This is where he introduces the iron gate.
Through that iron gate, I must pass alone. It's the ultimate reality check of mortality, isn't it?
Yeah.
We live in communities, we have families, we have support networks. But dying, that is a solo activity. And Spurgeon uses this to dismantle the idea of sponsorship.
Sponsorship. You mean like having someone vouch for you?
Exactly. In religion, especially back then, people often relied on proxies.
My mother is a saint. Or my uncle is a bishop.
Right. And Spurgeon is tearing that safety net to shreds. He says no brother can wear your crown and no sponsor can stand as your proxy. When you hit that iron gate, you aren't a collective. You are an individual.
He actually gets very specific here. He starts pointing fingers at groups in the crowd who might feel safe.
Oh, yeah?
And he does not pull his punches.
No, he's surgical. He starts with his own kind. Official Christians.
The professionals.
The ministers, deacons, elders. He warns them that their office doesn't save them. He uses Judas as the prime example. Judas was an apostle. He was in the inner circle. He was a leader of Israel. And yet, Spurgeon calls him a son of perdition. He's saying, just because you work for the church doesn't mean you have the goods.
Then he goes after the doctrinalists. And I feel like we all know someone like this. The person who loves to argue the fine points.
The people who can split a hair between orthodoxy and heterodoxy. Spurgeon has no patience for this. He says you can have a very sound head but a rotten heart. Being technically correct about theology is not the same as being saved. He calls them wise men in the letter who have not the Spirit.
The group that surprised me the most, though, was the public agitators, the political reformers.
This is a timeless piece of advice, isn't it?
It feels risky, though. I mean, these are people trying to improve society. Why is he attacking them?
He's not attacking their goals. He's attacking their hypocrisy. He tells them, let politics alone till your own inward politics are settled.
Reform yourself first.
Exactly. He's saying, you want to fix the nation? Great. But if your own soul is a chaotic mess, you're just projecting that chaos outward. It's the idea that you can't build a stable society out of unstable individuals.
So he's stripped away the excuses. He's cornered the religious leaders, the intellectuals, the critics, the activists. But then he anticipates the pushback.
Yes.
Because he knows human nature. He knows people are sitting there thinking, yeah,
The
but...
what about section.
Yeah.
This is where he addresses the intellectual objections.
And the first one is a classic theological headache. Predestination.
Right. And for the listener who might not be deep into theology, the logic goes like this. If God knows everything, and if my destiny is already written, then why should I bother trying?
It's a get-out-of-jail-free card.
It is. If I'm picked, I'm picked. If I'm not, I'm not. It's a very fatalistic, kind of lazy way of thinking.
If it's meant to be, it'll happen.
Exactly. And Spurgeon just destroys this with an umbrella.
Which is such a British analogy.
Yeah. It's perfect, though. He asks the crowd, do you check if it's fated for you to get wet before you open an umbrella?
No, you just open it because it's raining.
Right. He asks, do you wonder if it's fated for you to starve before you eat your dinner? No. You eat because you're hungry. He calls this kind of reasoning wicked and foolish. We don't apply that logic to any other part of our survival, so applying it to your soul is just a cop-out.
But the second objection felt deeper to me. It's the objection of selfishness.
Ah, yeah, this one is tricky. The listener asks, isn't it selfish to focus entirely on my own salvation? Shouldn't I be thinking about others? Shouldn't I be helping my neighbor?
Which sounds noble. It sounds like the right thing to do.
It does, but Spurgeon flips it using the London Bridge analogy.
Walk us through that.
He says, imagine a man is drowning in the river below. You are standing on London Bridge. You want to save him. But if you cannot swim yourself and you jump in, what happens?
You both drown.
Exactly. It's not heroism. It's suicide. Spurgeon argues that you must be saved yourself before you can be of any use to anyone else. It is an unselfish selfishness. You have to secure your own footing, your own ability to swim, so that you can actually be a rescuer.
It's the airplane safety briefing. Put on your own oxygen mask before assisting others.
Precisely. A drowning man cannot save another drowning man. You need to be on the rock to pull someone out of the quicksand.
Speaking of quicksand, that brings us to the how-to. We've defined the problem, we've removed the excuses. How does Spurgeon say a person actually does this?
He simplifies it drastically. He doesn't give a 12-step program or a reading list. He points to one thing, instantaneous faith.
Instantaneous?
Yes. He says it's not about earning it over decades. It's about a total transfer of trust right now, trusting wholly in Jesus. But he uses a caution here, the quicksand analogy, to explain why people fail at this.
Right. He says you can't hedge your bets.
He says, imagine you have one foot on a solid rock and the other foot in quicksand. Where are you going to end up?
The quicksand is going to win.
Every time. And the quicksand represents your own merits, your own attempts to be a good person. He says if you trust 90% in God and 10% in yourself, you are lost. Partial trust is no trust. It has to be all in.
He even shares his own testimony here, doesn't he? Yeah. He says the moment he believed was the simplest act my mind ever performed.
Which is comforting. It's not complex. But then the tone of the sermon just changes. We've had the logic, we've had the analogies, now we get the fear.
That gets incredibly urgent.
You have to understand the context. It's 1871, life in London was precarious. And Spurgeon was a master of reading the room. He stops preaching and he starts calculating probability.
He does the math on desk.
He looks out at those 5,000 people and says, statistically, based on the actuarial tables of the time, some of you in this room will be dead within a month.
Wow.
He's not guessing. He knows the death rates.
And he brings up a very specific boogeyman, cholera.
This grounds the sermon in a terrifying reality. At that time, cholera was sweeping across Europe. He mentions it's moving from Poland, coming closer to England.
And people knew what that meant.
Oh, yeah. You have to remember, they didn't have antibiotics. If you got cholera, you could be healthy in the morning and dead by sunset.
The Blue Death.
Exactly. The fear in that room would have been palpable. Spurgeon leverages that. He reminds them of the last plague, seeing people drop in the streets as if smitten by an invisible arrow.
It's a reality check. He's saying, you don't have time to debate this philosophy. The plague is coming.
Prepare to meet thy God. That's the hammer drop. He moves from the abstract iron gate to the very real possibility that you might not make it to next Sunday.
It's intense. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm just struck by how systematic Spurgeon was. He didn't just shout at them. He dismantled their defenses one by one.
He really did. Think about the journey he took them on. He defined salvation to include personal mastery, so you couldn't just claim cheap grace. He proved the value of the soul over money and reputation. He removed the ability to hide behind a pastor or a family member. He knocked down the intellectual excuses like predestination, and then he pointed at the clock and said, time is running out.
It's a masterclass in persuasion. And there's one final thought he leaves us with, or rather, a thought that lingers from his business analogies, the concept of bankruptcy.
This is the provocative thought to end on. Spurgeon makes a comparison to the commercial world. In business, especially in Victorian London, men went bankrupt all the time.
Right, and they could start again.
And awesome, they could start again. You can rebuild a fortune. You can get a second chance.
But in the business of the soul,
if you are found bankrupt at the Iron Gate, you are bankrupt forever. There is no Chapter 11 in the afterlife. There are no do-overs. The ledger is closed.
that is a sobering thought to take into your day.
It is. And it goes right back to that mental solitude. Spurgeon's request wasn't just for that Sunday morning in 1871. It's a challenge that reaches us today, to sit alone, without the podcast, without the phone, without the distractions, and ask that one question: what is the state of my own salvation?
And on that note, we'll leave you to your mental solitude. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
See you next time.